Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Trailblazers Podcast, where we get the special privilege of hosting Ben Snuffer, the co-founder of Monolith. Ben, welcome to the show.
Thank you. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic, thank you. Now, Ben, for those of us who don't know, could you tell us a little about yourself, and could you share a bit about your personal journey and what ultimately led you to founding your company?
I'm more of a, my background is basically more of blue collar working, a lot of background in building, doing remodels. I was actually a truck driver in the oil field in Roosevelt, Utah for about 3 years. I tend to be more of a, like I said, a blue collar worker. Um, my journey with being coming into Monolith is basically because of that background. I learned a lot about the bad side of construction. And what I mean by
Mm,
that is I remember walking into some homes that were, I don't know, maybe 2, 3 years old, if that, and having the experience of looking at how bad the quality is of the current building industry. Seeing, having to rip out and do just a silly amount of remodel work in what should be a brand new home. And that actually brought me to a journey that I want to say I started around 2000, roughly around 2016. I went on a journey that I researched every single building system. I'm talking like alternative building, cob homes, earth ship systems, rammed earth, building out of like the tires where you fill them up with dirt and all those
yeah.
things, straw bale, every sort of alternative system. Because what I was trying to understand is there's a lot of building structures like in Europe that are still standing. Like Europe is a lot older than America. What are those buildings made out of? And a lot of them are cob and like the Roman concrete and just all these different things. Like I was just sort of on a journey on why are the buildings in America so bad, or just throughout the world, I should say, and when were they good and what made them good. And so I would do workshops and learn all these different systems. And around 2016 is when I found ICF. And ICF is it stands for Insulated Concrete Forms for those that don't know ICF. Um, and basically, an ICF block they vary in sizes, but the typical is 12 inches to 18 inches tall by 48 inches wide or 4 foot wide. And
Okay.
you stack them together. They're hollow blocks, and you stack them together. You put rebar in, and you pour concrete inside. So I stumbled upon this technology, and I was really impressed. It felt like a really, really, really good alternative, or what should be the new standard, I should say. They solved a lot of the current industry problems, and so I was pretty sold on ICF specifically. And then I found all of ICF is made out of polystyrene or styrofoam, which
Mhm.
to me I don't think is a building material. I thought it was a really good idea to make ICF, but I didn't like what it was made out of. And then I
Yeah.
stumbled across a gentleman whose name is Kirk Tyler. He was making a polyurethane version of it. And anybody that's in construction will tell you all day and all night, if you use an insulation material like those foam boards, they come in 4x8 sheets,
Mhm.
a styrofoam one versus a polyurethane will always be the thing to go with. So, anyways, fast forward, I found Kirk. That was in 2016, and then I just couldn't stop the idea of ICF. I hadn't built with it. And then I think in 2020 or 2021, a couple years ago, about 3 years ago, I guess, I started just getting this bug in me again, being like, I really need to understand this. And that's when I reached out to Kirk again. And my intention was to buy his company or figure out how to build with it. And Kirk was like, me and my old partner, they had a splitting of the ways. It was just sort of dying out. And he was like, hey, if you want to partner with me and raise money, I will go into partner with you. And the rest is history. I said yes. We went and did a raise, and I'm doing this podcast inside our manufacturing plant right now. We're in full production. We're now off to the races. We're producing for local and national. We're shipping all over, and yeah, the rest is history. So now we're an official company.
Wow.
We're making the polyurethane ICF block, and that's what we're doing today.
Well, that's amazing. That's such a fantastic story. And maybe going back a few steps, what makes your product and service so extraordinary compared to traditional building methods and materials?
So the thing that sets, I'll just talk about Monolith because ICF will touch a little bit on this, but Monolith specifically, I'll tell you exactly what it does. It creates a permanent structure. In my mind, it should be at least 1,000-year building. And it is earthquake, tornado, and hurricane proof. And Monolith specifically is nothing is ever going to be fireproof, but it is the highest fire resistant that you can get in any building structure. So it covers all your natural disasters. It'll even rebuff really intense flood, like in hurricane areas, as long as it's not, like in Utah, everybody builds with basements in Utah. In areas that you have floods and things like that, you're not going to build a basement. So your weak points would just be your windows and doors at that point. But the structure itself will not go away with the flood. You may have to do some interior remodeling. But anyways, so I would include floods in that as well. So it's basically natural disaster proof. Your smallest wall is going to be 11-inch wall, 2.5 inches of foam insulation on each side, and then a 6-inch core of concrete. And so the closed-cell polyurethane protects the interior and exterior of that concrete really well. And basically what it is that you're doing is you're marrying a bunch of different technologies. That's why I brought in the alternative building. Cob is really a sound building method. It has a really high U value, but it has a garbage R value. So it's really hard to insulate. And things like SIPS panels and rammed earth and all these different technologies, it's like, in my mind, ICF and Monolith sort of take all the positives of all the different technologies and puts it into a system that's modern technology. You're marrying the old ancient technology with the new. And when you get the high R value of Monolith, which is 38.5 R value just in the foam itself, so it's got an insanely high R value, and then the concrete has a really high U value. You marry those two technologies together, and you actually have a thermal performance that you cannot get in any other system. So in that 11-inch wall, you're getting all the natural disaster proofs, all of those things, but then performance-wise for your utilities and your R value, it's exceeding an R65 thermal rating. I would argue it's probably R75 to R80, but we need to prove it. But we've proven so far R65 plus. We need to do a couple more tests to prove that R80, which I think it is at. What that means for the owner of the property is you're basically beyond 75% less utility savings. So you're that efficient. It's really resistant to mice and termites. They really hate polyurethane. It's really agitating to them. It's basically all the weaknesses of the current buildings it fixes. And the rest of the construction is going to be exactly the same. Like your interior framing, your sheetrock, windows, doors, roof, all that stuff will be the same. The plumbing, electrical. The only thing you're changing is the exterior of the shell of the building is going to be built out of the best material that you possibly can get your hands on. And that was my goal. And so that's exactly what Monolith does. It solves every weakness that you can possibly throw at the current industry of both residential and commercial. You can do 30-story buildings. You can go as high as you want. You can go as small as you want. You can do a shed out of it. It doesn't matter. People tend to overthink it. You're basically just engineering it for a concrete wall. You can go all the way up to a 12-inch core. So if you want to, a lot of hospitals, schools, they'll go to a 12-inch. And something else that it solves is, I personally think that every home should be built out of it. But let's say it's just the government that's doing it. Capitol buildings, city halls, schools, hospitals, things like that, community centers. What tends to happen is in a time of a natural disaster, people can then gather to these community centers, these high schools. In a tornado, everybody can gather to this building and be safe. In my opinion, it'd be better if a tornado goes through a city and not a single building. Imagine a full town, 100% built out of Monolith, with an ICF roof and storm shutters or storm windows and doors. Imagine the amount of rebuild that needs to happen. It would go from hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in damages to pretty much just infrastructure like your roads, your power poles, things like that. It's pretty minuscule. And that's my dream, is to have Florida and the Carolinas and Texas and through the tornado belt and all these places, California with the earthquakes and wildfires, to never have to do these massive rebuilds again. They're permanent buildings.
Many people may not have even heard about this product, but beyond just a lack of general awareness, what do you think is the single biggest psychological barrier that prevents traditional builders and homeowners from adopting Monolith's blocks?
They don't know about it. I cannot tell you how many subcontractors, general contractors, architects, engineers, city planners, no one knows about ICF. No one knows about Monolith yet. I mean, we're a baby company. We're just getting up and started. We have very much the infrastructure and the ability to grow rapidly, which is our plan, but nobody knows. It's a messaging problem, in my opinion. Even at the biggest national convention in nationwide is called the World of Concrete, and it's every spring in Las Vegas. And even in the world of concrete, ICF and concrete are like birds of a feather. Insulated concrete form. You would expect that the concrete industry as a whole, everybody would know what ICF is. I cannot tell you, there are thousands of booths there. It is insane. It takes like an hour to get from one side of the expo to the other. There's like roads in between. There's an underground Tesla escort that you can take to get from one side to the other. It is massive. And I cannot tell you how many booths I went to, and I just said, do you know what ICF is? And they said, what? So even in the world of concrete, people don't know what ICF is. So it is a massive messaging problem. And I think the homeowners don't know about it because architects, engineers, and builders don't know about it. So if no one knows about it, who's going to introduce these things? And I think that the key is to get as many homeowners, future homeowners, and people educated on it, because if the homeowner knows and they're requesting ICF and they say, look, I want Monolith, I guarantee you it'll be immediately adopted. But if it's kind of the saying that you can't teach a old dog new tricks. I mean, you got builders that have been doing this for 30 years. They know exactly how to quote it, how to build out of lumber. They've done the exact same system since they were 18 years old. And they're now in their 40s, 50s, 60s. Some are close to retirement. They don't want to learn a new system unless it's really easy, which it really is. But still, there is a hesitation. It's always that first job. Once they do that first job, they're like, holy crap, this is so much easier, so much faster. And then the end product is that much better. I mean, as a contractor, I got to carry insurance for the next 9 years. If I were to do a project right now, my insurance has to cover that for 9 years. And so I want something that I know will never, ever, ever fail. So as far as the adoption, it's honestly messaging. We need to get all the people that are on TikTok, Instagram, all the newer social media apps. We need to inundate those to get the younger generation. And I think honestly, if I'm being fully honest, I think a lot of women need to be educated on it as well, because, of hearth and home, moms, wives, they tend to help influence a lot of the decisions, and we need to show them that's why we changed Monolith's messaging to, instead of build stronger, build smarter, build bolder, build better. Like, that's what every ICF and concrete company is saying. Our new message is protect what you love, build Monolith. Because at the end of the day, your house is your sanctuary. You go out and you go to work and you're existing in the world. And when you come back to your home, you want it to be quiet. You want it to be protected. They're ballistic proof. Like, they are the safest building that you can live in. And at the end of the day, I think that's really what matters. If you have to evacuate, and every picture, memory, house animal, pet that's stuck in this house, and you can't go and collect all those things because an evacuation order has been put in place and you cannot get to your home, wouldn't you rather know that your home is going to be standing after that natural disaster? I mean, I know I would. And I think that's the messaging we have to get out is, I mean, now that I've told you, I'm sure you want a house out of ICF, but until you spoke with me, how else would you understand what building technologies and options are out there? It's a big problem, and it's a big mountain to climb, but that's my biggest goal, is to climb that mountain and do it.
Yeah, absolutely. If people don't know about it, they can't experience the great benefits that come with it. And Monolith succeeds in becoming the standard. What is like the ultimate lasting impact you hope to have on the safety and sustainability of construction across the U.S. and internationally?
My biggest goal is to put myself out of business, which would mean that every single building is so long lasting because they used our product that we're no longer needed. Granted, there will always be housing needs and commercial needs, but that is, I mean, I want to change the way that the disaster relief fund works with FEMA. It's more advantageous for a township or a city to allow a hurricane to come in and demolish the entire city because they get more money in the rebuild than they do having a permanent structure. And so nationally, internationally, I don't see. I think that there is no excuse to build out of anything else, and I want us to be the new standard. We exceed every single international building code standard. We don't just meet it; we exceed in every single category. That if Monolith was the new standard, no other building technology, including every other ICF company, could compete with us, because we excel that much more. You do not build to standard. Anybody that builds to international building code standard is doing something wrong. You should exceed what it is that the building code standard is. So my vision is to have every single commercial and residential building built out of ICF. I just saw in Lehi, Utah, you can look it up in the news, a massive apartment building that was traditional 2x4 construction, 2x6. It was just stick framing, plywood sheathing or OSB sheathing, and a fire started, and the entire building is gone now. It was a massive fire. I guarantee you, if they were building, it was mid-construction. Like, it still was bare OSB. Guarantee you, if they were stacking monolith block, and that same thing happened, that would not have been the result. It just doesn't light on fire. Like, it's still there. It's fireproof. Well, ultimately fire resistant is what I have to say.
Yeah, you have a fantastic product. And like you said, there really is no excuse why this shouldn't be the standard across the industry. And as we start wrapping up the podcast, is there anything you would like to say that we may have missed? Or would you like to share any exciting news with the audience?
There's a couple things that I would say. I would urge every single one of you guys, you included, ask yourself, why is it acceptable to build your home, your sanctuary? You can dump $200,000, $500,000, $2 million, whatever your budget is for your home. You dump your life, your energy, your finances to make your sanctuary yours. Why is it acceptable? Why do you accept to build this building, your home, your sanctuary, out of firewood? Why is that acceptable? Why is it acceptable that no matter where you are, no matter what natural disaster may be prone in your specific area, why is it acceptable for contractors to build the cheapest material, the cheapest everything, and you have to suffer the consequence, and you have to deal with the insurance, and you have to deal with all these things? They don't care. They're going to build the house, and then they're gone. And you have to deal with it. Why is it acceptable to you not to build beyond what exceeds code? Is it because you didn't know about ICF? That's what I assume. And if that's upsetting to you, I would encourage everybody to get a hold of your local community mayor, city planner, those that are going in and doing new developments. There are many developments going on everywhere. I know that Grantsville has a new, like $1 or $2 billion residential sort of new neighborhood. They're going to bring in churches and shopping centers and a whole big deal. And I am getting a hold of him and asking him and encouraging him to use this as an option. It's not that we need to. I don't want to enforce anything. Just give it as an option. And so I would encourage anybody that is hearing this message right now, answer that question inside. Would you feel better building out of firewood or building out of a fireproof solid material? And if you would rather have that, the only thing that will get this out is for you to share this podcast, share it with everybody, share it on Facebook, social media, and help us get the word out, because I'm serious. We do not charge a crazy amount. We're not in it we're not increasing our profits, and our COGS are whatever our COGS are. We're not marking it up just a crazy amount. We're trying to make this as affordable as possible, because I'm not here to make $1 bazillion. I'm here to change the way that we do things. And as these natural disasters come in, that's a perfect opportunity to rebuild permanently. So I would encourage everybody to ask yourself, do you actually want to be safe in your buildings? And let's change the way that we look at building together, because I'm only one person. I can manufacture only so many blocks. I can only spend so much time doing this, and it's up to the consumer and the person that actually cares about being protected and being safe to help us make that change.
Absolutely. I think we all need to look internally and like really get this message out, because it will really just save lives. It's a huge benefit. And like,
that's
where can
actually
people
one of our other slogans is cheap walls cost lives.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. I mean, you're making out of firewood. I mean, just basically living in a tinderbox. But like, where can people find your work and stay updated on your company's projects and progress?
So you can, our website is build, as in building, monolith, like a monolithic pour. So buildmonolith.com. So you can reach out, Ben at buildmonolith.com. We have a teeny tiny YouTube channel. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn. It's all just under the Build Monolith thing. But yeah, that's the best way. Just go to our website. We'll have contact information there, and then all the social media platforms as well.
Okay, perfect. Be sure to include those in the subscripts. And with that, well, everyone, thank you for tuning in. And thank you, Ben, for coming on the show and telling us about your fantastic company.
Yeah, thank you.